Good evening, welcome to town meeting. I call this meeting to order. My name is Linda Dumont, I'm the town clerk. I will now read the invocation. We are gathered here together in the civil assembly. We gather as a community in the oldest sense of the word. We gather together to try and make decisions about what we think is right and about what we think is wrong. Let us advocate for our positions, but never at the expense of others. Let us remember that there is an immense gap between saying, I think I'm right and I am right. Let us always remember that our neighbors, with whom we might disagree at town meetings, are good people with hopes and dreams as true and as high as our own. Let us not forget the citizens who have served our town in the past, as well as those that are serving it today. And most importantly, let us always remember that in the end, caring for each other and our community is of far greater importance than any differences that we may have at this meeting. Greetings. You are hereby required in the name of the state of Maine to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Topsham qualified to vote on town affairs to assemble at Mount Airy High School Forum Room on Thursday, the 2nd day of November, 2023 AD at 7 p.m. in the evening, and then and there to act on Articles 1 through 5. We will now act on Article 1 to elect a moderator to preside at said meeting. Are there any nominations for moderator?
I nominate John Lloyd.
Second. John Lloyd has been nominated, and it has been moved and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations cease. We'll now ballot for the moderator. I'll need a few people to cast their vote, please. I have 3 nominations, 3 ballots for John Lloyd. John Lloyd, please come forward. John Lloyd, you swear to support the Constitution of the United States and every state of the Union and continue to the thereof.
I do.
And will you faithfully discharge to the best of your abilities, duties incumbent on you as the moderator, according to the Constitution, the laws of the state of Maine, and the ordinances of the town of Topsham, so help you God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Let's start with the pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic. As remarked, is some prayer.
Thank you for the privilege and honor to do this. So let's look to the Lord. Our Heavenly Father, as we gather here tonight, we want to first pause and ask for your grace and comfort upon all those families and friends who lost loved ones and those who were wounded in the shooting in Lewiston. We ask for your healing grace and comfort to be poured out upon them all, and that we, their neighbors, will do what we can to help them take steps to move forward. May we use this tragedy to spur us on to be better neighbors and take care of one another. And as we meet here tonight to discuss the business at hand, let us treat one another with respect, dignity, and honor. Though we may have difference of opinions, help us to agree to disagree without being disagreeable. We don't have to be nasty towards one another. We are neighbors, and we desire to see the town of Topsham be a wonderful place to raise our families and provide a place for our businesses to thrive in this community. We want to thank each one that is here to discuss the business at hand, to see that these things are fulfilled. And so, Lord, I ask that you would guide the discussion, give them grace with their words. May we hold back those things that we feel we ought not. And Lord, I ask that we'd also thank those who serve on the boards. Thank you for their work. We don't always understand the things that they see that come across their desk day in and day out. But we thank you, Lord, that they were willing to serve and to be there for us. So Lord, we ask these things in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Usually I start the meeting with, talking about civility. Well, Pastor covered all those bases, so we'll take care of one another, speak to the issues and do it civilly. Just a couple of things. It's a fairly short warrant, but it's there, as you know from reading the warrant, each of the items amounts to a lengthy article. I would like your except Article 2 to dispense with reading them, but refer you to the warrant, if that's okay with you. Particularly the sign ordinance, it'd be almost impossible for me to read. So anyway, yes, ma'am.
Are there additional copies of the warrant available?
Oh, everyone should have a copy. I'm sure we can.
I think somebody will. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who doesn't have a copy of the warrant, would like one? Well, Linda's doing that. There's a microphone at the lectern in the center. If you wish to speak to an article, approach that mic, give your name, your address. Procedure is going to be when you've seen me and other moderators use in the past. I will read the article, or at least the introduction to the article. I'll ask for a motion, second to that motion, and then I'll ask if there are any comments from members of the select board, and then to the extent that some of these things deal with planning. Julie Bergman, who's the director of planning, may or may not speak to these, but I'll give her the opportunity to do that initially, and she'll be available to answer questions about each of the ordinance items. Ms. Erdman is not a voter in Topsham, and so the first order of business is we need a 2/3 vote of the body here to allow a non-voter to speak. So I'm going to ask you, if everybody has a green card, I think, and that's what you're going to use to vote with. I'm going to ask for a vote to allow Ms. Bergman to speak to the planning articles. All those in favor, please raise your card. Those opposed? Ms. Bergman, you may speak.
A point of order, does that mean any town employees that are not residents?
In a town meeting, even a town employee cannot speak without a vote.
Can't we do that instead of just doing one?
She's saying, can't we just make it a blanket for all towns?
Can't we make a blanket?
Oh, we can, if there are other, yeah, well, we should certainly do that. If there are other town employees who are going to speak to articles who are not voters, yes, I don't know if that's the case,
Yeah,
I think we
there
should.
could be.
it could be.
Could
All right, well, let's just expand that to any town employee, all those in favor of letting them speak, raise your green card, those opposed. All right, any town employee who's a non-voter, they address it. Thank you. These, because of the ordinances, they're not amendable, so I won't go through the routine of amending, that. So, once, we've gone through the ordinance, once the voters have had a chance to address, the article, we'll call for a vote, they will vote using your green card, and if it passes, or it doesn't pass, either way, we'll move on to the next article. Okay, Article 2. To see if the town will vote to, 1, approve the acquisition of approximately 15 acres of land owned by Jonathan Cornish, seller, being a portion of the property described in a certain warranty deed to the seller dated April 3rd, 2019, and recorded in the Saginaw County Registry of Deeds, as document number 2019R-01922, and a logging easement to such land from Hillside Road, including all reasonably related costs thereto, the project pursuant to the terms and conditions of the draft purchase and sale agreement to be entered into between the town and Jonathan Cornish on file with the town clerk. 2, authorize the expenditure of funds in an amount not to exceed $157,000 in connection with the project. 3, authorize the grant of an electric utility easement over the existing Woods Road crossing the town's land adjoining the premises approximately as depicted on the Town of Topsham tax map R08, lot 50, for the benefit of Jonathan Cornish's remaining land. 3, authorize acceptance, appropriation, and expenditure of funds from any grants, donations, or contributions to the project. And 5, authorize the town manager to execute all other related documents and agreements related thereto. Select board recommends not to pass. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we vote to approve Article 2 with 1 through 5 within the paragraph.
Thank you. Is there a second? Sorry. It's been moved and seconded. Any comments from, the select board?
Not yet.
Any,
Nothing, but we can if need be.
right,
We can if need be, but nothing right now.
okay. Any questions or comments addressing this from town employees?
Good evening, Mark Walsh, Assistant Town Manager, Glenfield Road. I'll give a little introduction to the rationale behind this. There's a lot of people in this room that know a lot about the history of the area, but just in case, I'll go a little bit into it. So on the map in front of you, tax lot 50 shaded in pink is the current transfer station property. This property was a landfill in the past, and the landfill closed in 1994. And since then, we've been paying for testing of some lots, some spaces on this property, as well as a part of a gravel pit on the piece we're asking to purchase, and 5 houses down on Townsend Way. We spend about $3,000 a year testing for properties on Townsend Way. 2 of the properties have treatment systems because of leachate from our former landfill. And we also budget about $25,000 a year in case we had to replace the water treatment systems. We estimate it'd be about $12,500 each if we had to replace them. So what happened is about a year or so ago, came to the attention of our solid waste facility director, Ed Karen, that Mr. Cornish was thinking of selling his property, which was shaded on the previous screen, and abuts the town property. We began talking to him to see if he'd be interested in selling some of it to the town. The piece we're asking to purchase on this survey is the piece shaded in yellow. A earlier version of this survey from January or so showed that he was anticipating cutting this piece into 5 lots. Our fear is that if those were turned into 5 residential housing lots, we probably at a minimum would be testing 5 more properties. We don't know if we would find leachate in the wells for those properties, but there's that risk. If it was found, we'd be buying treatment systems at the tune of approximately $12,500 each. So as you can see, the numbers quickly add up the cost of the town. What's also happened on the town property over the years is it's become a popular recreation area. We've got trails that are used for horseback riding, mountain bike riding. We've got a pump track, ponds that are used for fishing, and this property, as well as our existing property, people hunt on. So we're thinking that we could, by purchasing this property, not only can we protect ourselves from potentially having to pay for water treatment systems and testing, but we will have some extra area that can be used for trails in recreational use by the general public. So we spoke to Mr. Cornish. After some back and forth, we arrived at the terms that were outlined in the proposed warrant with a sale price of $157,000. He could certainly get more of that if he was selling those as house lots, but he liked the idea of having the land preserved too, because obviously, while we're not technically dedicating it forever for conservation purposes, there's absolutely no interest on the town's part of ever having this made residential because of the risk of having to pay for water treatment systems. So that's the summary of it, but I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.
Anybody else care to address this article? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Denise Tepler from Kingdom Place, Thompson. I just wanted to know if the town is considering any other things that we might do to improve the groundwater in that area.
Is there anyone care to answer that question? You all?
The state was down in the past month or so, and believe it or not, it was recommended in the 1980s that it would be a great way to grow the hay on our landfill cap, on two of the facilities, if the paper mill sludge was mixed with topsoil. So we definitely have not only paper mill sludge in the ground, but also on top of it, the state came in to do some testing and we're waiting the results. So there's no current plans to take other steps, but next time will tell what the state has asked us to do or wants to assist with doing other stuff.
Thank you. Anyone else care to address Article 2? Being done, we'll proceed to vote on Article 2. All those in favor, please raise your green card. Those opposed? Article 2 passes. Article 3. Shall the voters of the town of Topsham, Maine adopt and implement First Amendment to the 25 Hackmatack Road Affordable Housing Municipal Development and Tax Increment Financing District? Adopt a development program for such district pursuant to the findings and terms and provisions set forth in the warrant. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that Article 3 is passed as presented.
Second. We move in second. Any comments from the select board?
No, we just actually 45 minutes ago had another public hearing on this and I think many people were here. This was something, I believe it was approved this past May's town meeting, the original TIF, or was it the year before? So it's been a year and a half. The housing authority came to us and they no longer need to have this amount of land within the TIF. So they're looking to remove some of it out of the TIF, and that would allow them more financing options, if I understand correctly. And it allows the TIF to be used again sometime in the future, but they didn't need the TIF district to be as large as it was, and they're looking to make this.
Thank you. Anyone else care to address Article 3? Any questions? Comments? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote on Article 3. All those in favor, please raise your green card. Those opposed? Article 4. To see if the voters will adopt an ordinance to amend the town code, chapter 225-33L, consolidated sign table, to revise the maximum signage allowed in a commercial sign district. It's set forth in the tax code that the strikeouts indicate deletions and underline indicate additions. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that Article 4 is to pass as presented.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Any comments from the select board? Any questions or comments from the voters? Yes, ma'am.
Nancy Randall, 13 Williams Drive. I have a real problem with this. We call, what spot zoning is, this is it. This is done for one particular project, and I don't think that's a good thing. I know that because the sign ordinance has been in place basically with not major renovations, revisions since 1993. I think that it needs a complete look at. I think we should defeat this. I believe we should defeat this, so we're not doing one thing now when we need to look at everything. That right now we have, I think it's like 75% of our signs are out of compliance because they ever did have to follow the rules and nobody made them. So I think we really, really need to do, we need to change all of it so that it works. The signs we have are not unreasonable right now. They should not be out of compliance. So instead of doing this, let's send it back and make them look at everything. It's been too long. I mean, in order to make that sign ordinance be right, the first time, I actually passed around and got a petition signed with enough people to abolish sign ordinance. That's the only way we got to really look at it. I think we need to do it again, and I don't want to do it with abolish.
Thank you. Would anybody else care to address this article?
I will say one thing in regards to that. The sign ordinance isn't from 1993, and I forget the exact year. It's been within the time frame that I've been, I believe, on the board. And what did change is at that time, somewhere in the last 12 or 15 years, during a town meeting, somebody came forward and asked for a holistic view on our sign ordinance. So the planning board had gone back and done that. They'd had a holistic view. And one of those things that happen when you do this is this sign ordinance has been a problem from the day we passed it. Probably just like the last one was. This is the first time that this particular item has become an issue. And it needs to be, it had to be somebody first, somewhere along the way, but it has been addressed. Not since 1993, it's been addressed probably in the last, I don't know, 12, 15 years. And it got a holistic review then.
Thank you. Anyone else care to address this article? Mr.
Julia, planning director. I was gonna say too that the sign ordinance has been updated within the last few years. While the reason that this is coming before you now is because of one particular business, this actually affects multiple businesses within the MUC and the MUC1, the commercial sign district. It's any business over 60,000 square feet would be affected. We don't have too many of those. There are just a handful of them in Market Basket and then Target and Home Depot. Target and Home Depot, Target recently replaced their signs. They actually went smaller than what they're currently allowed with signage. And Home Depot, I can't imagine that they'd be replacing their signs. I don't know why they would. Market Basket, however, they are far enough back from the street where under the current ordinance, they only allow about 160 square feet of wall signage, and it's not that visible from the street. I'm sorry, my voice is going. So that is the reason why they're looking for something a little bit bigger, just so that people can be able to see it from the street.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So up in front of you now is actually signage that would be allowed under the current ordinance, a 4-foot sign. And then that would be what they'd be allowed under the proposed, which is a 6-foot sign, 6-foot lettering.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to address this article? Seeing none, we'll see the vote on Article 4. All those in favor, please raise your 3 cards. Those opposed. Thank you for having me read this. Article 5. To see if the voters will adopt an ordinance to amend the town code, chapter 191-18, public open space and protection of natural resources, to revise the methods of reserving land and the open space fee in lieu. Again, underlined text is reflects additions and struck text to address the deletions. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve Article 5 as presented.
Second. Second, any comments from the select board? The comments addressing the article from the voters? Yes, ma'am.
Here's Sullivan, 34 Eileen Topsham. So my concern with this is as we meet the demand for affordable housing increases and we improve more and more density, high density housing, we will not be preserving as much open space as needed for the increased population correlating with that. If we make the changes just per bedroom rather than per dwelling. I'm not sure why the change is being proposed. If someone could answer that,
Is that a question?
it is a question, to be answered obviously after I'm done, but, I don't think the town realizes how valuable our open space is and how insidious the building and the loss of these open spaces is. And not just from housing or commercial properties, the solar farms that have been popping up have been taking up acres and acres of formerly open space. Point of question is right adjacent to the Topsham ponds, we've got, there's one solar field that went in, and then there was another proposed. And that was gonna involve, I don't know if it's still in process, they were cutting 32 acres of forested land. So I think this would shortchange our open space, changing this formula. There's a formula that is based on good data in order to preserve the open space with the number of citizens in Topsham. So I would like to know why it's being changed. And it seems to benefit developers more than our town.
Ms. Erdman, is this something you can address?
Under the current subdivision ordinance, there is an option to either set aside open space or to pay a fee in lieu of open space, and that is not changing with this amendment. What is changing here is how that fee is arrived at when someone decides to pay the fee in lieu. So, currently, when we have single family developments, or we have multifamily developments, the fee in lieu is determined by the number of dwelling units. And it is, it hasn't been all that equitable in how, in the amount of those fees. So single family developments have averaged about $377 per bedroom. And our most recent multifamily subdivision on Park Drive was initially assessed a fee that equated to about $1,056 per bedroom. So this flat fee per bedroom, $650, it falls somewhere in the middle there. And it will be more equitable for the multifamilies and the single families to be paying basically based on occupancy rather than number of units.
All right, does that answer your question, ma'am?
No, oh, I'd like to further comment. It does.
Okay.
So by approving more higher density in the future, looking to the future, because that's what open space is about, is looking forward to our future and our town plan. As we allow more and more high density housing, that open space becomes more and more valuable, which is probably why the multi-units do pay a higher premium in lieu of, rather than setting aside the open space, because it's cheaper for them to act. It would be cheaper for them to not set aside the open space and just pay the per $650 per unit. So it doesn't benefit the citizens of the town. It's not going to contribute to the increased open space for the dwellers of the high density housing, and it's not gonna benefit the rest of the town. The only person or people that this will benefit is a developer of a high density home. So I would suggest to not approve this change. Because the benefit is solely for the developer of high density housing and not for our town. And as I said before, the loss of open space is insidious and you can't get it back. So I would strongly recommend to vote this down.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi again, Denise Tetler, 13 Home Place. I have a question, not about the article that Ms. Urban addressed with the DC in this section, but rather about the introductory changes, and that there's a change, the red language underlined on the first section of this article. And I guess I do not understand, whether this is a change or whether it is the same. And if it is a change, I guess I would like the town attorney to address the issue of permanent deed restriction under the bylaws of a homeowners association. How can a deed restriction be permanent under the bylaws of a homeowners association? Bylaws can be changed by vote. And I guess I don't fully understand that as a possibility that would make something permanently in place for the use of the citizens of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else prepared to address Smith?
It's Angelo, Cooper Federale, and I'm chair of the Conservation Commission. We reviewed this before the public hearing. We also went with initial proposal. We're basically in agreement that it's much more equitable than we have now. It actually, contrary to not preserving open space, I think it would preserve more open space. It actually, the original ordinance was designed with the idea that there's only going to be single housing in town, which is clearly not the case. This actually allows people, it makes it more equitable. That's not the right word, but it makes it more affordable to put high housing in R1 district where we want it to be. There isn't really room in most of those lots. The rest of the ordinance requires a minimum 2 acres. There isn't really a 2 acre lot that somebody's going to put a multifamily housing on and also preserve 2 acres of it. It basically, we would be getting, we would disincentivize that kind of development. It also essentially increases the cost for rural single family housing, which is actually a good thing. We prefer not to have a lot of housing out in the R3 district. Not only does it lose open space in a valuable part of town, it also costs us money. Every time we put a house in out in the rural area, it's costing us more services than we get in tax revenue. Whereas developments in town do exactly the opposite. So everybody who lives in R1 is subsidizing the people who live in R3 right now. This will help in the sense that it disincentivizes R3 housing that is that does not set aside open space. We have options in our ordinances to do an open space subdivision, which is a totally separate thing. But we preserve quite a bit of land in a rural development. But unfortunately, there isn't quite enough incentive in that ordinance for it to be used often. So this might help. More of an incentive to not have to pay this fee. So I think our thought on the Conservation Commission is this is a good thing. We have the same concern that Denise mentioned just a minute ago. The phrase about permanent deed restrictions, under the bylaws of a homeowners association, as far as I can tell, has no teeth. Not only has the bylaws going to be changed, the deed, restrictions have to be enforced by the holder of the deed, or the grantor of the deed, which I guess in this case would be the homeowners association or the original developer. Either way, the developer's not going to be involved, the homeowners association may dissolve. There's nobody around to enforce the deed restriction at all. And that's the only way, a third party can't bring it to court. It's not, it's not their issue. So, it really, we would prefer to have this struck. It was too late in the process when I noticed this to actually get it struck. But I really hope that certainly the Conservation Commission will be coming back to the planning board and trying to get that language struck, or at least changed so that it's more enforceable. I don't know, there may be other mechanisms by which we can preserve land. The conservation easements have already been used. They weren't in the original ordinance, so that second phrase is actually useful, rather than the planning board having to override the ordinance every time. They can actually just refer to this phrase. So anyway, there's a lot of the changes. That one phrase is actually troublesome. I'm in favor of voting for it now because I believe we actually can get this struck in the next meeting. I'm hoping that's the case, unless somebody in the planning board decides not to make that happen somehow. But as far as I can tell, they're in favor of it. So I would say let's go forward now, because we do have projects lined up that this would help. And then hopefully we won't have any with a deed restriction coming forward in the next 6 months. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to address this article? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Jennifer Hughes, 27 Pittsburgh Road. I was just curious where the money goes that, for example, the $650 per bedroom, where that money goes and what it's used for.
So that's a question, you could answer that.
It is,
I can answer that. It goes into it goes into a fund for open space. This money goes into a separate account. It's designated for purchase of I don't remember the exact language, but basically it has to be a capital purchase. So it can be used for recreation or conservation of land, but it can't be a jungle thing. It has to be something that's permanent. So it would be might be a boat ramp in some cases, but it would be some additional recreational facility. Large, in most cases, we've been using it for acquiring open space. We just acquired the what's it called? Hideaway Farm, thank you, the Hideaway Farm property, we just purchased with money from this farm, last year. And that's probably what it would be used for in the future. And also, there's a separate fund, somebody mentioned, solar developments. The solar developments that are put into high value open space actually pay a fairly substantial fee, much greater than this per bedroom fee. I mean, the largest solar development we have here is likely to pay $1 million for it, and that money goes into a separate account that is only for acquiring land, period, or for conservation people on land. So anyway, I'll stop there.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
The other speaker wants to follow up. I'm good.
My name is Jeanette McNeil. I live at 2 Brookside Drive, and for those of you who are alert, you will realize that the chair of the Conservation Commission also lives at 2 Brookside Drive, i.e. my husband. So I am very respectful of his point of view, but I am not comfortable with these permanent deed restrictions.
several years ago, a development was put in our area. There was a deed restriction that prevented the connection of two roads. All that board and the town select board and all the lawyers that I could find to talk to all said that it was not enforceable, and indeed it was not enforced. So I don't have a whole lot of faith in permanent deed restrictions. What I'd like to ask is whether members of the planning board and members of the select board would answer the question, are you open to reconsideration of this clause in the next 6 months?
That's a question addressed to the member of the planning board or.
To members of the planning board and to members of the select board.
So the answer from the planning board, I'd say.
Would you
Yes.
address the mic, please?
Yes, Don Street, chairman of the planning board. We did discuss it, and what had been recommended was if we could eliminate some of that language. And then put that more appropriate language back in at some later date. Since we'd already posted it and had a public hearing, we couldn't change it. We voted on it when in place, but I would say that at least the tenor of the planning board at that meeting was that we would revisit that and get that language corrected. Once we got the attorney things on.
That would be continued.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, doing several complaints again. I just want to know, I understand we cannot amend from the floor financial articles. Is there anything that says we can't amend from the floor this sort of article
Yes, there is.
at this meeting? Okay, thank you.
No, ordinances are not amendable.
Okay, so we.
You have a change in type of amendment, but nothing substantive.
Okay, so we have to, as a body, if we pass this tonight, trust that it will be changed.
Yes. If you defeat it, the ordinance remains as it is currently written. So there is an ordinance in place if you defeat this particular amendment.
Yes, I voted on that previous ordinance, I do remember. Thank you.
Is there a limit?
I just want to address the concept of Peter Sullivan.
No, you're speaking into the mic.
Okay, I want to address the conservation representative, that I'm very well aware that the separate, set aside for the fees charged to the solar farms versus the dwelling. My concern, again,
Well, the solar farms are different.
oh, I know, it's a different.
Yes,
The reason I brought them up in the first place was just to illustrate the loss of open space and the danger of losing more and not being able to recoup it through purchases like the conservation committee does. And just to reiterate again, that the developers of the high density dwellings don't need a break in these. They don't need it to be more equitable. They're in for profit. They are going to make money. Our open space is more valuable than making it more equitable for high density housing developers.
Yeah, thank you.
No.
Anyone else care to address this article?
In regards to the comment that the developer is gonna make more money. The developer may make more money, but the developer is also gonna have property that they can lower the price on. Everyone is so concerned that we need to have more affordable housing. And housing's not affordable, no matter what I mean, even our housing authority is attempting to build affordable housing. And the numbers that they're coming in with, in my mind, they are not affordable, but everyone's trying their hardest. So yes, they will have the potential to make more money, but they will also have the potential to sell at a lower price to get somebody a home. And I'm sure, and the last comment I want to make is this here, in my opinion, actually helps create open space. There's probably a technical term of what open space is, but in my mind, open space is open to the public. And that's what this is going to create. This is going to create open space to the public. Because when you're referencing other places that are being used for solar farms or such like that, that's not open, that's private property. It's not open space to everybody. This is actually creating open space. This is actually bringing the ability for people to go out and use land that they don't own, but the community does. So those are the two comments of the misconceptions, I think, that were said tonight. This certainly has an opportunity to bring more open space, but it also has an opportunity to attempt to lower housing to the best of their ability, because it is ridiculous. We all know it's ridiculous right now. There is no magic pill to that solution. Everyone's always looking, what can government do to fix this crisis? It's not gonna be, there's gonna have to be small steps taken like this, and that's how we get it done.
Ms. Lyons?
Yes, I agree with, this ordinance, and I agree with trying to make housing more affordable. I am a big driver in this. I like open space, I walk the paths, I just enjoy the beauty that Topsham has and other places. However, everywhere you look, we need housing, and every time the state or any form of government puts a penalty or another fee to build a house, it just adds to the cost, and we have to start thinking of that. There's a fee for this. If there's a tadpole in a pond, there's a huge fee for that. If there's, it goes on and on and on before dirt can be lifted to develop this. So if we can bear that in mind on the state level as well as the local, and help get affordable housing, and like our chair said, it has to be little steps, and we can start there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to address this article? Yes, ma'am.
Riverside Drive. I appreciated Mr. Stan's comments, and he indicated that the tenor of the planning board was such that reconsideration of this problematic clause seemed to be possible. But I didn't hear a comment from the select board. If, in the fullness of time, the planning board has had a chance to chew it over and present an option to the select board, is the select board also open to reconsideration of this problematic clause? That's my question.
Can I answer that? We'll have a new board here in about 2 weeks, so we can't seriously speak for the board at this point, but we can certainly speak for individually. 3 of us who are still going to be on the board. I certainly am open to reconsidering it, but we can't lump the board in as one entity because it's certainly not. Yourself?
I'm certainly open to it, by all means.
Marie? You open? All right then, so 3 of us, there's gonna be 2 new faces on the board, and whatever happens, happens at that point.
Thank you. Ms. Lyons?
Mr. Moore, just as, even though I won't be sitting here, I am absolutely think it should be reversed.
Thank you. Are we done? Anyone else care to address this article? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote on,
I'm sorry.
You getting ahead of me? Well, anyway, all those in favor of this article, please raise your green cards. Those opposed? That passes. That concludes, this special town meeting. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting today. Second?
Second.
Okay, second, we're adjourned.
I don't know.
I haven't touched that. Is there a term? Is open space?
Yeah.
Sorry. I like when
Like 90% of me.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for staying. I just have a few words for two of our select board members. If you'd like to stay, please stay. If you have to go, thank you for attending the town meeting. You can Google it.
You know,
This is for everybody. I didn't have a mic at my seat, so I'll speak from here. I'd like to recognize two people who together have dedicated over 51 years to the town of Topsham. Dave Douglas, our longstanding chair, has served the community for over 22 years as a firefighter, finance committee member, and a select board member for 4 consecutive terms. As the chair of the board, you've done an outstanding job developing a strong foundation to build upon. And in my point of view, Dave provided the dedication, support, and leadership that resulted in an organization whose culture and devotion to the community is, in my opinion, unmatched. Ruth, you've been an integral part of Topsham, both in your 20-year career as Topsham town clerk and as a select board member for 9 years. Your concern for the people in this community has never wavered, and you can always be relied upon to provide input to anything brought before the select board. And always be relied upon to voice your concerns through your experience being a clerk and remember. Your leadership of yours has also been appreciated. Like many of our residents, Dave and Ruth have shared a deep connection and commitment to the Topsham community to strive and see it prosper. There are certainly different areas on what makes, different ideas on what makes the town prosper and what direction the town should take to be successful and meet the goals set forth by its residents. While there is no one-size-fits-all formula for success, there are certain key elements embraced by Dave, Ruth, that have served the Topsham well. I'd like to share with you the values and elements I felt were fostered by this select board. And I can only speak to the 5 years I've been a member of the Topsham team. But I'll highlight a lot of different things, and I'm sure I'm gonna miss a lot, maybe I'm gonna miss a lot, because I'm in everyone's favor. The first element I want to bring up is strong community engagement. Topsham has active and engaged citizens who care about the well-being of the community, and I've noticed this in my 5 years, more than any other community I've lived in. On a regular basis, residents come together, share ideas, and work collectively towards common goals and achieve great things. This select board has welcomed and encouraged citizens to participate and be successful. In the last 5 years, this board has authorized 7 ad hoc committees. And these committees were initiated by our residents who have volunteered numerous hours of time to pursue common interests. I'll just name a few, and I may be missing one or two. The comprehensive plan update and implementation committee. Prior to that was the comprehensive plan. The Topsham Solar Advocates, who morphed into the Energy Committee. Bike Ped Committee, the Government Review Committee, Charter Commission, Community Center Committee, and the one thing I mentioned in my first year here, you conducted neighborhood meetings. The second element I'd like to bring up is effective leadership. Leadership matters. We need visionary leaders who are committed to the best interests of the town. These leaders should not only have the commitment to guide the town's affairs, but also the integrity to make decisions that benefit everyone. What I have witnessed is the willingness to listen, even if personal beliefs were different. And as town manager, I've never had to worry about 2 very important things from both Dave and Ruth, and it goes for the rest of the board. And that is trust and support. This is very much appreciated. You have trusted management, our department heads to deliver. Most of our department heads are here tonight. You enable us to grow, take ownership of our jobs, and acknowledge the good work of our employees. I can talk a little bit about leadership through the COVID pandemic. I'll just highlight a few things. It's the first time in the town's history a state of emergency was declared. It was declared the same day as the Senate, as the state, to safeguard the public and ensure resources were readily available, not what anyone was going to have. Town hall closed for 6 weeks to the public. The glass partition was installed in the tax card counter, and HVAC systems were improved with better airflow and IR light to kill any of the germs that we were told that would help. Public safety, public works, and solid waste never ceased operations and continued to be on the front line serving this community.
Grocery stores and essential providers were in constant contact with town manager's office and public safety. A drive-in town meeting was conducted, the first in the state, and it was planned to mitigate risk of town operations while adhering to CDC guidelines and Governor Mills' executive orders regarding gathering size limitations. We were creative and proactive and did not wait for help, mostly due to the select board. The select board instituted a standard remote meeting policy for continued operations and allowed all boards and committees to adopt it. The select board continues to allow remote meetings, trusting that citizens make every attempt to attend meetings and remote into meetings due to unforeseen circumstances and medical reasons. So I can tell you on behalf of many of the committees and the chairs, they appreciate this, and they found that participating and coming together is much easier for them as well. But to this day, they do their best to adhere to your guidance. The next element I'd like to bring up is economic development. Given Topsham's size, it has a diverse economy. Under your leadership and emphasis on attracting new businesses and supporting existing businesses has always been a priority. We have a healthy mix of small and large businesses, which are important in maintaining stability and growth. And we know that with growth, as we're seeing today, demand for services, labor, and housing will prove to be challenging in the coming years. There's many things under this I'd like to mention, but I'll continue on with the other elements. Education. This is an important element for any municipality, and although our select board does not have a direct impact on MSAT 75, they are all involved. Whether it is an annual budget meeting with district elected officials or appointing someone to fill a vacant school board position, as well as the changeover in the school administration, this select board values education, but also sees the impact of the town when it comes to resource allocation. I also want to extend my thanks to Dave and Ruth for supporting professional development and education for our employees. The personal and professional growth of our employees will result in improved service to the community, and I see it every day. Infrastructure and services, another element. We have focused on maintaining and improving upon our current infrastructure, including roads, utilities, and public services. This is vital to the quality of life in our town and reducing costs in the future. Before I continue on, I'd like to mention that everything we do is within the guidance of the 2019 comprehensive plan. With infrastructure and services, I'll name a few things. During my time here, we've seen an 85% increase in our paving budget, prioritizing capital replacement and maintenance each year, modernizing all our equipment, supporting department requirements, hiring full-time fire EMS department. We right now have 8 full-timers. That's not including the administration, and still continuing with our on-call and per diem, which I think anybody can attest here has been a huge value to the community. Just started the community paramedicine program, and more importantly, it doesn't get a whole lot of attention. We have continued relationships with Midcoast Hospital and Central Maine Health. And this is all conversations I've had with the select board in my time here, and it continues to happen. Recreational activities, another element. A prosperous town is not just about economic success, but also a high quality of life. Community events, parks, recreational facilities, and a sense of community pride contribute to the overall well-being of our residents. The board has been extremely supportive. I'll name just a few things, and because when I came 5 years ago, some things I'm not sure when exactly happened, but we've had increased recreational program, had a tight park, like pump track at the solid waste facility, recreational paths or pedestrian bikes throughout town, sidewalk connectivity, and just naming a couple of events that are, happening or have happened that are gaining a lot of popularity. That's the Halloween trunk or treat, Santa's ride through town, and National Night Out. All the things I mentioned are highly supported by all of you. Environmental sustainability, another important element. Ensuring that this sustainable future for our town is essential. Responsible environmental practices not only protect our natural resources, but create opportunities that can stimulate economic growth. Over the past 3 years, the select board was supportive and approved of, with the help of our residents, in initiatives, a townwide LED and municipal facilities light conversion, the solar purchase power agreement, currently updating the town's 2010 climate action plan, and progress on improving the Topsham watershed and Harris Stream. Those are just a few of many items. Fiscal responsibility. Sound financial management and responsible budgeting are fundamental to long-term prosperity. Prudent uses of resources, avoiding excessive debt, and ensuring transparency in government finances builds trust among residents. I'll give you a couple highlights. Our current net municipal budget remains lower than that of fiscal year 2019. We've reduced the town's debt by 83% this past year. We've increased capacity with our services at the same time. And this is all led to a development of an outstanding team of town employees led by people you see in front of you. Planning for the future is the last element that I'd like to bring up. We must continue to be forward-thinking, anticipate challenges, and adapt to changing circumstances. We have been fortunate that Dave, Ruth, current and past select board members have continued to think about the future. This includes addressing issues like risks associated with climate change, infrastructure maintenance, growth, and evolving economic trends. We've seen all of this in 5 years that I've been here. In summary, what makes Topsham prosper is a combination of the elements I've mentioned: strong community engagement, effective leadership, diversified economy, education, robust infrastructure, environmental sustainability, recreational opportunities, fiscal responsibility, and forward thinking. Dave and Ruth, both of you have guided us through numerous projects, issues, events, and a pandemic with tremendous support and leadership. There are many things that I have not mentioned. I want you to know that your dedication efforts will continue to benefit this town. On behalf of a grateful staff and the community, I want to express our deepest thanks for your dedicated service. You may be leaving your positions on the select board, but you always hold a special place in this community. So thank you.
I do want to say something before people go, and the biggest thing to me is the people in this community. I have served them, I have loved them, and they have returned it to me. And I will never stop being visible or speaking out if I feel something isn't gonna benefit the people of Topsham. And I just want you all to know that I will be present, I will be silent. Thank you.
I just want to say a couple things because I wasn't, they said a recognition, I wasn't expecting like this.
Mike?
It's on.
You know that.
You know, Nancy, come Tuesday, I debated whether I keep you on my phone. So I wasn't expecting this sort of layout, but you know, each and everything that Derek listed, it wasn't Ruth, it wasn't I, and it was easily the board gave and allowed the direction of the staff to do what they did. One of the reasons I ran 12 years ago is because there was an incredible micromanagement from the select board on staff, and staff wasn't allowed to do what they were hired to do without elected officials being there, being in the way. And that was one of the things that spurred me to run. You know, we have a very simple job. The town manager runs the town. We oversee it. We oversee, you know, we're overseers of the poor, right? He develops the budget, but having strong leadership makes this town run incredibly efficient. And I know Derek listed us as doing all these things, but I could say it back just as much to you and your staff that, you know, you guys do a lot of this stuff. Last thing, you know, important to me is I always wanted individuals in Topsham to be able to live their life, not be overburdened with the tax rate that we provide to them, not overburden them with directions from within the government or anything. And I hope we're successful in that, because that's most important to me. I think people have, have more ability and more planning to take care of themselves than what the government should be, does for them. I believe a person should be able to make their own way, and I hope that we're allow that to happen. So thank you. I may or may not be present, but I'll be at town meetings and buildings. Is that good, Nancy?
Yeah, thank you, and I do want to hear, and I had my hearing aids on tonight, and many times I couldn't hear tonight. Mark Walsh, I couldn't hear.
You couldn't hear this?
Pardon.